Hello, guys. Welcome. This is Southern Retro. I am Dawn. I am a Southerner, born and raised, if the accent has not already given it away. I'm also a Gen Xer, very proud Gen Xer. So that does make for an interesting combination most of the time, being from the South and being a Gen Xer. So you never know what you're going to get on this channel. We will talk about anything from movies to music to paranormal, UFO, aliens, Bigfoot. We'll sprinkle in some good old wrestling from time to time. Just some plain bizarre news, crazy stuff that I find on the Google machine. Some celebrity true crime, some music news, movie news, any kind of news. You never know what you're going to get. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for deciding to drop in and hang out with us for a little while. This is our weekly deep dive video. It is actually the first deep dive video for the new revamped version of the channel. This channel, it has gone through many changes, but I think I finally found my niche here that I want to do. And so every week I will have a deep dive video where we'll discuss whatever. I usually don't know what it's going to be until like 5 minutes before I decide to record a video. So, and then during the week, I upload a lot of shorts. I may do some short videos, some top 10 lists, some news. You never know what you're going to get. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, please consider subscribing. Hit that like button, leave a comment, share it to anybody you think would be interested in listening to me babble on, and try not to turn it into a complete dumpster fire. But with that said, for this week's weekly deep dive, we are going to be discussing the top 80s horror movies. Now, being a Gen Xer, I am all about the 80s, of course. And I'm also a huge horror fan. It is my favorite genre. Books, movies, TV shows, anything horror, I am into it. So I came across this article on a website called creepycatalog.com, and I did put a link to it in the description box, so please do check it out. And they have a list of the 19 best horror movies from the 80s. They say these are the best horror movies from the 1980s, arguably the best decade for horror cinema. Well, I agree with them on that point. I think anything from the 80s is the best thing ever, but that is just me. So I thought we would take a look at it and see if we agree with their picks. So they say the decade of the 80s was one of the best periods of time for horror movies. The growing popularity of independent horror films in the 1970s led to an increased mainstream interest in the 1980s, fueled by more eyes watching and, of course, more moolah being spent. Studios put out an extremely wide variety of scary movies throughout the 80s. For that reason, the biggest themes encompassing horror cinema from 1980 to 1989 are experimentation and innovation. So with that in mind, this list counts down the greatest horror movies of the 80s with a bit of a twist, of course. As in every good horror movie, there's always a plot twist. With the sheer volume of horror released in the 1980s, this list could easily grow even longer than our 60 best horror movies of the 90s. We might have to take a look at that one at some point. So instead, they say this list will rank 19 of the best 80s horror movies that best represent a particular subgenre or category. So that is interesting. So let's see what category they have first. First, we have best movie featuring inanimate objects as killers. So first of all, that would not be the first sub-genre or category that would come to my mind when I think of horror movies, but we'll go with it. And they have their pick as Maximum Overdrive from 1986. Now, I have watched this one maybe once all the way through, bits and pieces here and there when I happen to be flipping through the old TV tube there and looking for something to watch. Not one of my favorite horror movies. Uh, Definitely not my best inanimate object horror movie, but they do have, and on this list, they do have for every category, besides the one that they picked as their favorite, they have two alternates. And I have, and then a lot of these I agree with their one of their two alternates instead of the one they picked. But I can say, in my opinion, the best thing about Maximum Overdrive is that it was based on a Stephen King short story Trucks, and it is the only film that Stephen King directed. And of course, the other good thing about it is Emilio Estevez, who I'm a huge fan of. And that picture there reminds me of the Green Goblin there on the front. I've been to a lot of Mardi Gras parades down in Shreveport, Bossier City, and I swear every year they get their inspiration, I think, from this movie for something to stick on the front of the float, because I've seen almost that exact face there on some of the Mardi Gras floats down there. But anyway, let's see what they have to say about Maximum Overdrive. They say, sure, the movie is campy and cheesy, as are most 80s horror movies, but that's why it is so wonderful. Maximum Overdrive takes place in a world where various machines come to murderous life when Earth passes through the tail of a passing comet. Some of the objects attempting to kill people include a vending machine, an electric carving knife, a lawnmower, and an automated teller machine that calls writer-director Stephen King an a-hole. The main villain in the movie is, of course, this big rig truck with the Green Goblin mask on its grill. And the truck gets his truck friends, so we got a truck posse going on, to harass a group of survivors in a truck stop led by Brat Pack megastar Mr. Emilio Estevez. Once again, I'm a big fan of. So that is their pick. And please, guys, in the comments, let me know what you guys think of their picks, and also give me your picks of what your favorite in each category would be. So that is their pick. And in their alternate picks, they have Christine, which that would be my personal pick out of these three, to be my favorite inanimate object movie. Once again, another Stephen King adaptation, one of the better ones in my opinion. I love Christine. I have to admit, I have not seen, and Christine came out in 1983. The Stuff, 1985, a movie about a killer desert. I have not seen that one. But if any of you guys listening, watching this video anywhere out there in the YouTube streets, let me know if you've seen that one. The Stuff. I'm going to have to look up that one. But yes, Christine would definitely be my pick of the three that they have listed here. All right, let's see what they have next. We have the best holiday slasher. And I can tell you right now, because it's 1980s horror, that my favorite Halloween, or I just gave it away, my best holiday-themed horror movie is not going to be on here, but they have My Bloody Valentine, which I have watched it. Your run-of-the-mill, bloody, cheesy, campy, good old 80s horror movie. I maybe watched it one or two times all the way through. It's not really, because when Halloween time rolls around here, we do our fair share of watching of horror movies for about a month. This one's not usually on the list, but let's see what they have to say about it. So, fun fact about it, many scenes in My Bloody Valentine were shot in real mines in Nova Scotia. Precautions had to be taken with the hot lights used in production to prevent methane gas explosions. So, there's your fun fact for the day. The success of movies like Halloween, 1978, hint, hint, and Black Christmas, 1974, meant one of the subgenres of horror that would never go away is the holiday-themed slasher film. While many movies of this type can feel gimmicky, to say the least, My Bloody Valentine is a straightforward stalk and slash, a good old slasher movie. You have a mass killer, of course, an urban legend, it's mandatory, and a bunch of young adults. You can't have a horror movie without a bunch of young adults doing things they probably shouldn't be doing, who want to party despite repeated warnings from adults, those pesky kids. You also have a bunch of fantastically gory, low-budget kills. I love low-budget, what they call B movies. Absolutely. There's certainly a lot to love in this Valentine's Day slasher. Well, I might have to disagree with them a little bit on that one, but I do love the blood and the gore. So, if anything, if it's got anything going for it, it's the blood and the gore. So, let's see what their alternate picks are. And their alternate picks are Silent Night, Deadly Night, 1984. I would most definitely probably pick that one over their pick, My Bloody Valentine. I do like Silent Night, Deadly Night. Halloween 2, which came out in 1981. One of my favorite movies, movie franchises, horror movie franchises, which of course Jamie Lee Curtis returns for one of the best horror sequels of all time. And I do agree with that. Halloween 2 was, I enjoyed it. Some of the other ones, not so much. And then they got into some of the newer reboots, remakes were pretty good. But if I was to pick my very favorite holiday slasher horror movie, it would be the original Halloween. But of course, it's not included on this list because we're doing 80s and it came out in 1978. But Halloween is hands down probably my favorite horror movie of all time, and in my top 10, top 5, maybe top 3 favorite movies of all time of any genre. So that would be my pick. But Silent Night, Deadly Night, and the Halloween 2 are not bad alternate picks. All right, let's see what we got next. Next, we have Best Killer Animal Movie. And I can tell you right now, once again, my pick is not going to be in here because it is another movie that did not come out in the 80s. But their pick is Cujo. Absolutely. Love Cujo. Once again, based on the Stephen King book. There's a lot of Stephen King in horror movie, obviously, because he's a horror writer. But lots and lots of Stephen King adaptations in the 80s. Cujo is one of the better ones, in my opinion. So another fun fact about this movie, real St. Bernards were used to portray Cujo, in addition to an animatronic dog head and a stuntman in a dog suit. So there's an interesting fun fact for Cujo. So they say the number of killer animal movies dramatically increased towards the end of the 1970s, which led to quite a few animal attack films in the following decade. Cujo is the best of the 1980s crop. I would have to agree as far as 80s go. Cujo is a tense film about a mother and son played by the wonderful Dee Wallace and Danny Pintaro, who become trapped in a broken down car while a St. Bernard with rabies waits to attack. The movie is frightening in a way that feels like it could really happen. Absolutely. And it is sad in that you feel for the people as well as the dog who cannot control what he's doing. Yes. Another good point. You do have to feel sorry for poor little Cujo there. So their alternates are Of Unknown Origin from 1983, which, once again, I have not watched that one. Starred Peter Weller from RoboCop fame. Absolutely great RoboCop movies. Love those one. those one. Love those movies. And Monkey Shines. Once again, no, never mind. I thought that one was Stephen King, but I do not believe it is Stephen King. Monkey Shines. I have watched it, but I can't watch it a lot because for some reason Monkey Shines creeps me out. Something about the little wind-up toy that sets and bangs the cymbals. I can never get that out of my head. So those are the two alternates. So their pick was Cujo, and their alternates were Of Unknown Origin from 1983 and Monkey Shines from 1988. Please let me know in the comments what your pick would be on this. My pick of the three that they're given here would be Cujo, but my most favorite killer animal movie in the whole wide world is Jaws from I believe it came out in 1978, I believe. Oh, love Jaws. And I never really considered Jaws a horror movie, more of a psychological horror, I guess it would be psychological drama. But you cannot beat Jaws. I have read the book Jaws. Actually, the book scared me more than the movie did. I had nightmares. Didn't even want to go sit on the toilet after reading the book. But I love Jaws, one of my favorite movies of all time, regardless of genre. And a couple of years ago, I actually got to go up to the Northeast, and we went out to Martha's Vineyard, and a few of the scenes from Jaws were filmed on the beaches there in Martha's Vineyard. And our tour guide that was on the bus gave us some stories about when they were filming, and interesting stuff. I loved it. All right, so let's see what category we have next. Oh, my favorite subgenre of horror movies, the best vampire movie. I am a vampire fanatic, so be prepared if you watch this. If I don't scare you away on this video, if you come back to watch some more, we will be talking a lot about vampires, movies, TV shows, vampire lore. I love me some vampires. So I absolutely agree with their pick for the best 19 or 80s horror movie, vampire movie genre, The Lost Boys. Oh, Lord have mercy. I can't count how many times I have watched The Lost Boys. Hundreds upon hundreds of times. Fun fact, once again, about this one, Richard Donner, who is the director of The Goonies, was originally attached to direct The Lost Boys before Joel Schumacher took over. I don't know how different it. What do you guys? How different do you think it would have been if Richard Donner directed instead of Joel Schumacher? Trying to think of another movie that I love that Joel Schumacher directed. I believe Joel Schumacher directed St. Elmo's Fire, another great 80s movie. And you can really tell his style because when I watch The Lost Boys and St. Elmo's Fire, I can tell has the same atmosphere, the same cinematography. But I digress. So I absolutely do agree with their pick as The Lost Boys as the best 80s vampire movie. So let's see what they have to say about it. Featuring, of course, the two Coreys, Heyman Feldman and Kiefer Sutherland, yum yum, in probably his most iconic role. The Lost Boys is a gem of a 1980s horror. In the film, a gang of young and attractive vampires. They are attractive, but they are not sparkly. We don't have any of them damn newfangled sparkly vampires in this movie. So these attractive vampires target Michael, played by the absolutely amazing Jason Patric, after he becomes interested in Star, played by the wonderful Jamie Gertz. A member of the gang, Michael is pulled into the dark world of vampirism, and it is up to his younger brother, played by the Haim of the two Coreys, and his brother's new friends, including the Feldman, part of the two Coreys, to save him. Absolutely. So yeah, you got a absolute wonderful cast. You got Kiefer Sutherland, Jamie Gertz, Diane Wiest, Edward Herman, the two Coreys. Uh, got Billy Worth. Oh my God, I was so obsessed and still am with Billy Worth. Oh God, he was that long black hair. Let me tell you. You had his name just flew out of my mind. Alexander Winter of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure fame, among other things. He played one of the vampires, so just a stellar cast all the way around. All right, so let's see what their alternates are. So their alternates are Fright Night, 1985. I do like Fright Night. I'll watch it, for once again another good cheesy campy 80s horror movie. But Near Dark from 1987. It's probably my second favorite vampire movie, no matter what the decade. Um, love Near Dark. Another stellar cast. You got Lance Henriksen plays Jesse. You have Jeanette Goldstein that played Diamondback. You've got Adrian Pasdar played Caleb. Jenny Wright played May. The wonderful late great Bill Paxton played Severin. Just a stellar cast. You got Catherine Bigelow, a fantastic director. To me, the difference between Lost Boys is more, campy and cheesy. Some comedy in it, of course, with the two Feldmans and the Frog Brothers. Near Dark is grittier, darker. It does have comedy, mainly due to Severin, Bill Paxton's character. Excellent one-liners from the Severin character in Near Dark. Excellent soundtrack, but the Lost Boys, I don't know. I think the Lost Boys has it beaten as far as soundtrack. The Lost Boys soundtrack is fantastic. But yes, I love Near Dark. Trying to think. So Lost Boys and Near Dark would definitely be my two favorite 80s vampire movies. Probably of all time, any decade, probably my three most favorite vampire movies would be Lost Boys, Near Dark, and Bram Stoker's Dracula. So you guys let me know what your favorite vampire movies are, regardless of genre. Doesn't have to be 80s. Let me know in the comments. Absolutely. So next we have Best Demonic Movie. And they have Evil Dead 2. I wonder why they didn't have Evil Dead, the first Evil Dead. But I love the whole franchise. Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. Oh, love this. One of my favorite one of my favorite franchises, regardless of genre, are the Evil Dead movies. You got Bruce Campbell. You can never go wrong. How can you go wrong with Bruce Campbell? You can never ever go wrong with Bruce Campbell. So fun fact about this one, Stephen King, once again, Stephen King is everywhere. Stephen King helped director Sam Raimi get the funding to make Evil Dead 2. So yay, Stephen King. So they say while the original, The Evil Dead from 1980, is a great film itself, its sequel, Evil Dead 2, refined the ideas from the first movie and solidified the personality of one of horror's most enduring characters, Ash. Absolutely. Played by the magnificent Bruce Campbell. Evil Dead 2 also has a very heavy layer of comedy. Absolutely. Another, you can't beat the Ash one liners either. So it adds a layer of comedy to the proceedings, which was very subdued in the first film. That is true. Ash has to spend another night in a cabin in the woods. That reminds me of another movie. Battling demonically possessed people and his own possessed hand. God, you gotta love the possessed hand. All right, so absolutely, I'd have to agree with the whole franchise. Their alternate picks are, of course, Evil Dead, the original from 1980. They say whether this or Evil Dead 2 is better is very debatable. So once again, let me know in comments. Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness. And their other second alternate is Demons from 1985. I don't believe I've watched this one either. It says demonically possessed people rampage in a movie theater. Nope, that does not sound familiar. So I'll have to give that one a watch. If anybody watching has watched that one, please let me know if it's worth watching, worth giving a couple hours, hour and a half to. All right, next we have Best Killer Doll Movie. Oh God, this is not one of my favorite categories. I hate dolls. I hate dolls with a passion. Dolls and clowns. I can't do dolls and clowns. But I do agree with their pick. They picked Child's Play, 1988, of course. Sweet little Chucky there. Fun fact for this movie, writer creator Don Mancini's idea for Child's Play was partially inspired by rampant consumerism and marketing directed towards children. Absolutely. Growing up in the 70s as a small kid, you couldn't turn around, on the TV, in the stores, everything geared towards kids. And it's the same way today. It hasn't changed. I don't think it's ever going to change. So, what do they have to say about Mr. Chucky? They say in the movie that spawned a franchise which has lasted over multiple decades. Yeah, the sequels are kind of iffy, sporadic in this series too. To me, if I watch any of them, it's going to be the first one. I'll watch Bride of Chucky, but as far as the other ones, I can live without them. So a young boy comes into possession of a talking doll inhabited by the spirit of a serial killer. The tones of the Child's Play Chucky movies vary wildly from film to film, but one constant is Brad Dourif's fantastic performances as the always intense Chucky. Another constant is series creator Don Mancini's clear love for his creation and the fearless way he repeatedly reinvents the franchise. I'll have to give him that. Yeah, they just seem so just disjointed sometimes. The sequels and just I don't know, it's just can't get into them. Can't get into them. So this first film, A Child's Play, which came out in 1988 from director Tom Holland, is one of the scarier of the series. That is true, in my opinion. With Chucky coming across as more creepy than in most other incarnations. So what do you guys think? You think they picked right with Child's Play? Let's see what their alternate picks were. Their alternate picks are Dolls. I tried to watch that one time, couldn't make it all the way through it because once again, I cannot stand Dolls. Puppet Master, 1989. I do like Puppet Master. Once again, that's polar opposite of Chucky. Chucky is more has more comedy, maybe sometimes unintentionally. Puppet Master, darker, grittier. But I do like Puppet Master. So of the three, the Puppet Master would probably be my pick. All right. Next, we have Best Psychological Horror Film. Now, when I was younger, 70s, 80s, because I started watching horror movies when I was way too young to start watching them. Um, I didn't really get into, being a kid, 10, 11, 12, you're not going to get the psychological horror. But as I have grown older, I do really enjoy psychological horror. Um, but their pick is Possession from 1981. I have not seen this one. Once again. So, fun fact for this one, director and co-writer Andrzej Zolowski wrote the script for Possession while suffering from depression after a particularly tough divorce. So that probably explains a lot about this movie. It says to try to describe the plot of Possession will be a huge disservice to anyone who hasn't seen it. The basic story involves a man, played by Sam Neill, and a woman, played by Isabella Adjani, whose marriage falls apart in increasingly disturbing ways. Possession is a mentally brutal experience that languished for a long time after its release due to objections about its content. So I'll definitely have to check it out if it has objections to its content. The movie still isn't terribly easy to find and watch. They say at a decent price. Well, nowadays with all the streaming services buying up everything, you have to pay a pretty penny for anything you want to watch nowadays. But it's definitely worth seeking out for any fan of psychological horror. So, like I said, since I have not seen their pick, let's see what their alternates are. We have Maniac from 1980. I watched it, I think, once. Killer narrates his own depraved murder spree. My big pick from these three definitely would be Henry, a Portrait of a Serial Killer from 1986. Based on Henry Lee Lucas. I'm also a big true crime fanatic. So I do love, I've watched Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer many times. I'm trying to think of the actor's name that starred in it. It escapes me right now. He was also in The Walking Dead. Played Merle in The Walking Dead. Okay, so Michael Rooker, the wonderful actor Michael Rooker plays Henry Lee Lucas in Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. It also stars Tom Knowles, John McNaughton, and like I said, it is based on the real serial killer Henry Lee Lucas. I'm trying to find the description that IMDb gives from the movie. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer is a disturbing horror gem, but the real events involving Henry Lee Lucas are much more unsettling. Yes, they are. Although the movie is told and acted well, this version of Henry's life is G-rated in comparison with the sinister deeds he actually committed. However, it should be known that the MPAA slapped an X on this film after review. So director John McNaughton decided to leave the film unrated. Moreover, McNaughton said that his unrated 82-minute version is basically a director's cut of the film, since he declined to make edits to permit an R rating. Dark Sky Films Anniversary Special Edition of Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Looks great on screen, they say. It has an excellent vintage horror grindhouse quality. The musical score is, they say, freaking badass and ominous as hell. Indeed, sharpening and intensifying horrific images that cut into the cornea and make the eyeballs bleed and scream. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but and it says, and for a low-budget film, acting and cinematography are excellent. It certainly isn't apparent that this is low-budget cinema. So that is Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. I would definitely recommend that one over their pick. Now I've got to get back to the original site here. Give me 1 second. All right. So their pick was Possession, which I've not seen. I'll have to give it a look and make a decision. To be fair, and like I said, Maniac and Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, my pick, are the two alternates. Let's see what evilness they have in store next. So next is best Japanese horror. Once again, I have to admit I do not watch much, if any, Japanese horror, so I have not seen any of the three. So their pick is, and I'm going to try not to butcher this, and Tetsuo the Iron Man, which came out in 1989. That picture is horrifying. I probably could not watch it. Reminds me of like a body horror. I can't watch body horror either. So Tetsuo the Iron Man did receive two sequels in the following decades. Part 2, Body Hammer, which came out in 1992, and The Bullet Man, which came out in 2009. So the original is a movie that thrust rebellious Japanese filmmaker Shinya Tsukamoto into a worldwide spotlight. The movie is an unforgettable, oh yeah, body horror experience. Nope, can't do it. Where flesh and metal blend together in a barrage of sex, violence, and madness. The plot involves a businessman, a quote, salary man, to use the Japanese term, who begins to have disturbing visions. At the same time, metal starts growing out of the man's body. Nope. Things progress from there in a senses pummeling scenario of sights and sounds. Tetsuo the Iron Man is required viewing for anyone looking to really get into Japanese horror. Maybe that's why I do not watch Japanese horror. Nope, cannot do the body horror. Let's see what their alternates are. So their alternates are Evil Dead Trap from 1988. Once again, have not seen it. Says a film crew falls victim to a murderer and his traps in an old warehouse in this Japanese take on a slasher movie. That sounds like, I wonder if that's where they got the idea for once again my old mind goes blank. Oh, the damn it, man. I'll think of it. Or not. We'll come back to it. So Evil Dead Trap, Saw, the Saw movie series. That's what I was trying to think of. I wonder if that's where they got the idea for the Saw, because that sounds a lot like, sounds very much like it. Falling into traps in old warehouses. I'll have to look that up and see. Oh, so the other one, I don't even know if I can say this on the YouTubes without getting a strike. The other one is Entrails of a Virgin from 1986. It says it is, quote, a pink film, which is a Japanese movie with lots of nudity, featuring a bizarre monster killing a group of people stranded in a remote house. Don't think I'll be watching that either. So now I think I know why I do not watch. Nothing against Japan, but I just doesn't sound like my kind of horror. All right. Next, we have best campground slasher. And I absolutely agree with their choice. They chose Friday the 13th from 1980. Good old Jason Voorhees with the hockey mask. You got the Kevin Bacon. Love me some Kevin Bacon. So the fun fact for this one, some of the gory special effects may seem dated to modern eyes, but they are still a lot of fun. And absolutely, this whole movie is a lot of fun. Absolutely. I'm trying to think of some other, we'll get to their two alternates. To some other, what they call campground slashers. There's not a lot I can think of. So let's see what their picks are. So their alternates are Sleepaway Camp. I have watched Sleepaway Camp, which to me is just a rip-off of Friday the 13th, in my opinion. It came out in 1983. And The Burning, which came out in 1981. I have not watched it, but their description is it is similar to Friday the 13th, but with lots more gratuitous violence. So I'll definitely have to check that one out. I'm all for some gratuitous violence. Um, but Sleepaway Camp, like I said, in my opinion, a rip off of Friday the 13th. All right, so moving on. Next, we have Best Anthology Horror. Their pick is Creepshow. Absolutely, that would be my pick. Stars Adrienne Barbeau, who rose to prominence in horror cinema thanks to memorable roles in films such as Creepshow. The anthology film. Oh, excuse me. I didn't. Let's go back to. I didn't even read the synopsis for. Did I? Hold on. I didn't read the synopsis for Friday the 13th. Rewind. So, what do they have to say about Friday the 13th? Killers and summer camps go together like chocolate and marshmallow. Inside a delicious campfire s'more. The original Friday the 13th is the movie that popularized the connection between the unaliving Red Room and camp. And it is still one of the best examples of the campground slasher category. Absolutely. In fact, it is probably the best example of the deluge of slasher flicks that came out in the 1980s. Friday the 13th launched countless imitations because the original works so incredibly well. And of course, it launched a whole franchise that would catapult Jason Voorhees into pop culture stardom. Yeah, but what do we have? Jason in one of them. Jason went to space or something. Yeah, to me, it just got a little too out there on a lot of the sequels. So I will definitely be sticking to the original. First is always the best. All right, so I told you, at any point it could turn into a dumpster fire. All right, so now we're back to the best anthology horror. Creepshow. There is a creepy catalogs pick. So we have the anthology film, a feature-length collection of shorts, is a popular format for horror. Which I can't think of a lot of anthology horror. Since it's a perfect way to deliver a bunch of fun scares. Possibly the greatest anthology horror flick of all time is Creepshow. A collaboration between writer Stephen King, once again, and director George Romero, another my favorite directors. It's a creepy and campy film featuring stories about revenge from beyond the grave, alien plants. That's probably my favorite part of Creepshow. A monster in a crate and a disgusting bug infestation. I don't do bugs, so I didn't. I'd have to stick with the alien plants. Love the alien plants. So, what are their alternates? So we have Cat's Eye. I have watched that. Once again, Stephen King. I'm telling you, Stephen King is taking over the world, which, in my opinion, that's not a bad thing. So we have Cat's Eye from 1985, starring a very young Drew Barrymore, and then we have Twilight Zone the movie, which I have watched. I like the original Twilight Zone TV show. The movie was okay. Of course, it was based on Rod Serling's original TV series, produced by Steven Spielberg and John Landis. So, can't remember if it's the Twilight Zone the movie, the one where they had the awful accident where the actor and the two child actors were killed during a mishap with the helicopter. Please let me know. I know you guys will let me know in comments if I'm wrong. But please let me know. I'll always admit when I'm wrong. So I would definitely go with their pick of Creepshow. That would be my pick also. for Best Horror Anthology. All right. Next up, we have Best Italian Horror. Now, I do watch some Italian horror, mostly just Dario Argento. I do love Dario Argento. And they have picked one of his. I love Tenebrae. I've watched it a few times. Tenebrae from 1982 as their best Italian horror subgenre. So Italy's worldwide influence on horror might have been stronger in the 60s and 70s, but Italian horror films released in the 80s were still some of the greatest fright films of the decade. Topping the list is Tenebrae, and it gives alternate spelling, which is a bloody giallo about an author whose violent novels are used as a source of inspiration for a mysterious killer. Directed by the magnificent Dario Argento, and with a soundtrack provided by former members of the progressive rock band Goblin, Tenebrae is a masterful work in the Italian tradition. Absolutely. Now, Italian horror, just from what I've watched, just the Dario Argento directed ones, not for the faint of heart. They are very bloody, very gory, but I like blood and gore. So if you like blood and gore, definitely give them a watch if you haven't. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones of his I watched. Kronos, I believe he did, and what was another one called Blood Red, something of that nature, or Blood Red, or something like that is what it was. The English version, the English name for it. I don't know. I can't remember what the Italian name for it is. But their alternate picks are Opera. Once again, Dario Argento. I have watched that one. That one's about a series of red rooms in an opera house. And then they have Stage Fright from 1987. I have not seen that one. A killer in an owl mask stalks a theater troupe locked in their rehearsal space. So that sounds a little bit bizarre. Bizarre is okay, though. All right, so I will definitely stick with their pick, Tenebrae, most definitely, or anything as far as Italian horror goes, anything Dario Argento does. All right, next we have another one of my favorite subgenres, the zombie movie. So absolutely, they pick since it is 80s, Return of the Living Dead from 1985. Absolutely. Fun fact for this one: Return of the Living Dead started out as a novel by John Russo, who is the co-writer of 1968's Night of the Living Dead. That would be my pick for one of my favorite one of the best zombie movies, though the movie bears little resemblance to the book. So Creepy Catalog says zombie movies were a popular subgenre of horror in the 1980s, and The Living Dead took many different forms throughout the decade. Its best form was brought to the screen by director Dan O'Brien in Return of the Living Dead. The movie is a zombie comedy that intentionally tries to differentiate itself from George A. Romero's zombies. These zombies can run, they can talk, and they want brains. Of course they do. The film follows the bumbling staff of a medical supply company and a group of young punks as they try to survive the night in this fun, funny, and gory flick. So, like I said, let's see what their alternates are, because that one would not be my pick. So they have Reanimator, 1985. I have watched it. Not a big fan. Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton starred in Reanimator, inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, about a mad scientist who brings the dead back to life. But their other alternate is Day of the Dead. That would probably be my pick would most definitely be my pick of the three. Came out in 1995. Romero's third Dead film, which was set in the underground bunker. So most definitely That would be my pick, Day of the Dead, as far as 80s go. I'm trying to think of some newer ones I've watched. Let's see, what was the one with, they were more comedy though, the ones with Woody Harrelson, Zombieland. If you want to laugh or, just something light to put on in the background, World War Z, that I loved World War Z, whatever year that came out. I did read the book before I watched the movie. So the only one that can come off the top of my head right now. The set or how many ever days later? 28 days later. That's another excellent one. I like that one. Not 80s, but I'm trying to think of some newer after 80s, post 80s zombie flicks. And of course, I love the TV series The Walking Dead. I did read most of the graphic novels they were based on. Love the original Walking Dead. I love the spinoff Fear the Walking Dead. Now they got so many spin-offs. I'm having trouble keeping up with all of them. They have a Daryl one, and a Daryl and a Carol one. They have a Maggie and a Negan one. So they're all on my DVR, but I haven't. I've got to get busy and get caught up on all those. But let me know if you guys agree with their pick here, Return of the Living Dead, or the alternates, Day of the Dead, Reanimator, or whatever your favorite one is that is not listed. And next we have Best Action Horror. And I would agree with this. Aliens, love the Aliens franchise. Aliens came out in 1986. Fun fact for this one, plans to create a sequel to Alien from 1979 stalled for years with studio executives not convinced it would be profitable. How could they not think it was? Because I loved Alien. That would probably be my pick, although it's not 80s, 1979. Almost 80s, close enough. But Aliens was good. So action and horror movies were both doing big business in the 80s, so it is no surprise that the two genres would collide with great success throughout the decade. At the top of the action horror list is Aliens, James Cameron, another one of my favorite directors. Follow up to Ridley Scott, once again, excellent director. Follow up to Ridley Scott's Alien from 1979. Sigourney Weaver, the wonderful Sigourney Weaver, returns as Ripley, and Ripley returns to the site of her first contact with the alien menace to help a group of Marines wipe out the threat. And I believe Lance Henriksen is in this one. Big fan of Lance Henriksen, absolutely. Like, this is the second time I've got to mention Lance Henriksen. Because we were talking about Near Dark earlier. Anytime I can work in Lance Henriksen reference is a good deal for me. So the film is very different from its predecessor, allowing it to make its own indelible mark in horror history. Right, so let's see what they have as the two alternates. So we have Predator from 1987, huge popular franchise. I've watched them. Now I have two younger brothers who absolutely love the Predator movies. They've watched every single one of them numerous times. I've probably watched all of them at least once. Of course, you have Arnold Schwarzenegger battling the alien. This alien who hunts for sport. In a movie that is right on par with Aliens as the best action horror movie of the 80s, according to Creepy Catalog. Oh, but their other alternate, They Live, 1988. I absolutely adore and love They Live, directed by John Carpenter. It says it's a fantastically fun movie featuring Rowdy Roddy Piper. Any of you guys out there listening or watching that watches wrestling back in the day, God rest his soul. Love me some Rowdy Roddy Piper. who is fighting back after discovering, putting on the sunglasses, that aliens live among us. And one of my favorite movie lines of all time, from his character, and the name of the character escapes me once again, but when he says, "I'm here to chew ass," or chew ass. Ooh, Freudian slip. I'm here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum. Classic, classic. So for the schlock and the campy and the humor factor, I would have to go with They Live, absolutely. But for the darker, grittier, serious, definitely Aliens, absolutely. Three solid picks they had for this one. Aliens, Predator, and They Live. Guys, if anybody out there has not watched They Live, please watch it. I implore you, please watch it at least once. Okay, moving on. So next we have best werewolf movie. So admittedly, I'm not a huge werewolf horror movie girl. Um, their pick is An American Werewolf in London, which came out in 1981. I have watched this once, I believe. Not my favorite. Now, fun fact for this one, Rick Baker, magnificent special effects. I think, to me, in my opinion, that was the best part of American Werewolf in London, was the effects and the makeup. So Rick Baker won the Academy Award for Best Makeup for An American Werewolf in London, and he would go on to set the record in the category with 7 total wins. So kudos to Rick Baker. So let's see what they have to say about An American Werewolf in London. Possibly spurred on by remarkable advances in practical makeup effects, and I miss the days of practical makeup effects. You got so much CGI. Nothing against CGI, but I just love the old school practical effects. So let's say, spurred on by remarkable advances in practical makeup effects during the early part of the decade, the werewolf movie had a huge surge in popularity in the 80s. Werewolf transformations were more realistic than ever, and makeup maestro Rick Baker flexed his special effects muscles with an Academy Award winning array of visuals in An American Werewolf in London. Directed by John Landis and starring David Naughton, the film is a darkly comedic story which remains one of the best werewolf films ever made. So I'll let you guys let me know in the comments what you think. You think, would that be your choice? Or one of the alternates? So we'll see what the two alternates are. So we have The Howling. That would probably be my pick of the 3. I love The Howling. I'll say I love it. I like it quite a lot. Dee Wallace, wonderful actress, stars as a woman whose encounter with a serial killer leads her to a secluded resort that may not be any safer for her. So I do love The Howling. Lots of good practical effects in that one too. The other alternate is The Company of Wolves from 1984. Have not seen that one, which I say is a dark take on fairy tales. So I might have to check that one out, because I do love when they take the fairy tale, which a lot of people don't realize that fairy tales, Grimm's fairy tales, a lot of the fairy tales, the original versions are very dark. So I do love it when the horror genre takes the fairy tales, and so I may have to check out the Company of Wolves, most definitely. All right, so next is, no, once again, can't do this category, best body horror. Now, I would have to agree with they selected The Fly from 1986. I can watch this one. I do like this one. I've watched it several times. Starring, of course, directed by David Cronenberg, and starring Jeff Goldblum. So the fun fact for this one is musician Frank Zappa composed a score for The Fly on his own, but Zappa's music remained unreleased since the finished film was scored by Howard Shore. And I think Howard Shore, if I'm not mistaken, I think Howard Shore may be Pauly Shore's dad. But once again, I may have just been making that up in my head or thinking that I saw that somewhere. Um, so The Fly, like I said, is directed by David Cronenberg. It's his reimagining of the 1958 sci-fi horror film and a 1957 short story of the same name. Jeff Goldblum stars as Seth Brundle, a scientist whose body starts to fall apart and reshape itself after he teleports himself with an invention of his own creation. The film features fantastically disgusting, yes, very disgusting, but award-winning special effects as Seth's body continues to deteriorate over the course of the movie. So, like I said, I can watch The Fly maybe once a year. I can't watch it over. I couldn't watch it over and over like some horror movies. So let's see what their alternates are. I know I've most definitely probably not seen them. If I can get my slide to advance, there we go. So we've got a Videodrome. I've heard of this one from 1983. I may have seen bits and pieces and then quickly flipped the channel. So, Videodrome, a man loses his mind after coming across a brutally violent television signal. Yeah, I think I tried to watch it, couldn't do it. And then their other one is Street Trash from 1987. Have not seen that one. Vagrants melt into puddles of rainbow-colored goo after drinking dangerously expired booze in this dark comedy. I don't know. I might can watch that one because I don't know what category the Blob would be in. It's not because the Blob is not body horror, but I can do goo and ooze. So I might could watch Street Trash. I might have to give that a watch if I can find it anywhere. But I cannot do the body horror. It creeps me out, freaks me out too much. I like that. What is it? The human the newer ones, the human centipede or whatever those were, where they sewed them together. No, can't do it. Can't do it. Okay. Let's get past this one. Let's move on. Yes, so next, best extra dimensional horror. Absolutely Hellraiser, 1987. Based on Clive Barker short, I believe is I can't remember if it was a full length or a short story. Love Clive Barker, one of my favorite authors, along with Anne Rice and Stephen King. Probably my top 3 favorite writers, horror writers, or just writers of any genre. You had the Cenobites. Doug Bradley plays a Pinhead. Love. Probably one of my favorite characters from a movie of all time. So, like I said, Hellraiser is based on Clive Barker's novella, The Hellbound Heart. I've read that more than once. It says Hellraiser is beautiful in its depiction of the dark and twisted horrors of Clive Barker's imagination. The heart of the story involves a young woman fighting for her soul against a group of Cenobites. Some of the most wonderful characters, creatures to ever come out of Clive Barker's imagination. That man, I love him to death, but he's got to have something seriously wrong with him. But it makes for excellent writing and characters, and whoever brought them to life on the screen, excellent makeup and costuming for the Cenobites in the movie. Sorry, just had to throw that in there. So the heart of the story involves a young woman fighting for her soul against a group of Cenobites, beings from a hell dimension who have grown beyond the limits of human experience. The movie takes the idea of cosmic horror and conveys it on a human level with body horror See, now they say body horror, but this, because once again, the Hellraiser, any of the Hellraiser franchise movies are not for the faint of heart. Um, Lots of blood, lots of gore, lots of sexual innuendos, and not so subtle innuendos, and so, but yeah, it does take body horror to a whole new level, but it's like a different. I don't know why I can watch what they call the body horror part of in Hellraiser, but I can't watch any other, like, what they call body horror movies. I just can't do it. But I can watch, and because I don't know how many, once again, hundreds upon hundreds of times that I've watched Hellraiser. So it conveys the cosmic horror on a human level with body horror and some heavy emotional weight. Absolutely. And you have, I can't think of the actress's name. I think the character's name there was a Kirsty. I cannot remember the name of the actress who played her. Like I said, of course, Doug Bradley played Pinhead, one of the best characters in cinematic history, in my opinion. But please do let me know in comments what you guys think. So let's see what they have for the alternates. So they have Prince of Darkness from 1987. I think I might have watched that one. I don't remember. If I have, it's been a long, long time ago. It says science and religion overlap as a college professor and his students investigate a mysterious artifact underneath a monastery. I'm gonna have to look and see. That sounds vaguely familiar. And then they have The Beyond from 1981. I know I have not watched that one. And A Gate to Hell may be opening beneath a hotel in this gory. It's an Italian classic from Lucio Fulci. So I may have to check that one out. Going back to the Italian horror. So please let me know if you think Hellraiser, would that be your choice for best extra dimensional horror? If you guys can think, because I can't think of a whole lot of what they call extra dimensional horror movies. So please leave it in the comments. Any suggestions? All right, next. We just got a couple more to go, guys. Next, we have best ghost movie. The Shining, absolutely, 1980. Once again, Stephen King wrote the original script for The Shining, but Stanley Kubrick rejected it and wrote his own with co-writer Diane Johnson. And I think I've read somewhere that Stephen King was not really happy with Kubrick's version of The Shining. Was not happy with it at all. So a creepy catalog says The Shining is a story of a man, of course, played by Jack Nicholson, losing his sanity while cooped up in a hotel occupied only by himself, his wife, played by the excellent Shelley Duvall, his son, and the ghost of the hotel's disturbing past. Yes, the two little creepy little twin girls. Come play with us, Danny. Sorry, that was a horrible, horrible, horrible imitation of that. Oh, it is one of the most unnerving and influential horror films of all time. I agree. And it is yet another movie from the 80s based on Stephen King's writing. Yes, it says King was not too happy, to put it mildly, about the changes made when adapting his novel, but history shows that Stanley Kubrick's version of King's story has continued to resonate with horror fans for decades. Yes. I admit I do. Of course, I've obviously read the book, being a huge Stephen King fan. I think I've read the book actually twice. And I've watched the movie probably a dozen times or more. So yes, I agree with their pick on this one. So let's see what the alternates are. So we have Poltergeist, 1982. Love Poltergeist. Of course, directed by Tobe Hooper. Poltergeist features many scenes and lines iconic in haunted house film history, except that stupid clown doll that's in it. Nope. I'm not going to do clowns. Oh, but their other alternate is one of my, once again, favorite movies of all time, Beetlejuice, 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 or just Beetlejuice. 1988. I'm sure if you're a horror fan, you've seen Beetlejuice. But a recently deceased couple employed the services of a shady poltergeist to haunt away the new owners of their house in this Tim Burton comedy. Love Tim Burton. Of course, you have Jeff Goldblum, and once again, her name has slipped my mind. One second. Sorry, I had still had Jeff Goldblum on my mind. Oh, Alec Baldwin. And it still doesn't give her name. Uh, Gina Davis, who was married to Jeff Goldblum at one time. That's where I got Jeff Goldblum. Yes, so Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis star as the undead couple. And then, of course, you had Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. Who else was in it? Of course, I went on a rider. I'm trying to see the other. Who played the mother? Well, they don't give it because I think she's in the new. I'd so want to go see the sequel, Beetlejuice. That's coming out, I believe, in September. I'm definitely gonna have to go see that. But yes, Beetlejuice. Out of the three that they list here, between Poltergeist, Beetlejuice, and Poltergeist, Beetlejuice, and oh, I just lost my article. Oh, hold on. Let me get my article back. That's what I get for when I start pushing buttons on my laptop. So they had. Let me get back down to where I was at. See, we're almost to the end, so I got to scroll down to the very bottom of the page. We're getting there. We're getting there. Slowly but surely. Oh, The Shining. The Shining. So 3 solid picks from Creepy Catalog. They picked The Shining, and then their alternates were Poltergeist and Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. My pick out of the 3 would be Beetlejuice for the on the lighter side, for the campy, cheesy, not humor. Most definitely Beetlejuice. I could watch Beetlejuice over and over. But I do love The Shining. Once again, darker, grittier. So 3 solid choices on that one, in my opinion. All right, I think we got 2 more, guys. So next we have Best Fantasy Horror. Absolutely, their pick is A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. Once again, another one of my favorite movies of all time, regardless of genre. So A Nightmare on Elm Street, they say, isn't just a fantastic movie, it's also one of the most important films of the 1980s. Wes Craven's movie about a serial killer chasing teens in their dreams was instrumental in revitalizing the slasher subgenre, which was starting to grow old in the eyes of mainstream audiences. The film's haunting visuals make it an effective horror movie decades after it first terrified audiences, and its killer, Mr. Freddy Krueger, has gone down in history as a pop culture icon. Absolutely. And I do agree, because I think the original, Nightmare on Elm Street, it has some couple of chuckles maybe here and there. But yes, it is dark, gritty, serious. Now, the second one, just skip it completely. Skip it completely. Stupid as heck. And then as probably, and we'll have to, and that might be in there, yes, in their alternates. Um, Obviously, the original, the first one is my favorite. Let's get to the alternates because probably my second favorite in the series is one of their alternates. Part 3, Dream Warriors. I love Dream Warriors. Um, like I said, skip 2 altogether, please. And I'm sorry if you've watched the second one. I'm sorry. God bless you. Bless your heart, as we say down in the South. But as they went on, Freddie became more wisecracking guy, the funny guy. Everybody, he turned, instead of a villain, he turned into the hero, anti-hero almost. So they say of Dream Warriors, the third installment gave Freddie wisecracks and gave the kills an over-the-top aesthetic that will define the franchise. Now, I'm not saying that just because Freddie turned into an almost a hero, anti-hero, wisecrack, funny guy, that they weren't good. They're absolutely good. I'm trying to think of the other one, whichever one was the Dream Child. I like that one too. I can't remember which number that one was. But yeah, definitely the original and Dream Warriors. So their other alternate for this category is Dreamscape from 1984. I don't think I've seen this one. Creepy Catalog says, while not actually all that scary, Dreamscape is a fun movie about a psychic who can enter other people's dreams only to fight nightmares. I don't know. That's vaguely familiar. I might have watched it a long, long time ago. I don't know. I've watched so many movies and horror movies. They all get mushed up in my brain. All right, so one more. The last one. They say they're number one. According to Creepy Catalog, the number one best horror movie of the 80s is The Thing. I do like this movie, and it's best alien invasion movie, they say. So I would probably have to agree with this because I don't know of a whole lot of alien invasion movies except for the Alien franchise. So it came out, like I said, in 1982. Fun fact for this one, The Thing is the first part of John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, and that also includes A Prince of Darkness from 1987 and In the Mouth of Madness from 1994. So Creepy Catalog says the very best horror movie of the 1980s is claustrophobic, gory, funny, tense, and full of action. Absolutely. I don't know. My dad loved this movie. My brothers love this movie. I think my mom doesn't do horror movies, but the rest of us do. So my dad loved The Thing. So of course I watched it let's see, it came out in 82. So I would have been 11 years old when it came out. Probably too young to be watching it, but I started watching horror movies and horror genre when, 8, 9, 10 years old. That explains a lot actually about me. As you'll come to find out if you stick around, which I hope you do. Uh, so as I say, the best 80s horror movie is John Carpenter's The Thing. So what are their 2 alternates? So we have Night of the Creeps. I haven't watched that one. Okay, it was from 1986. A horror comedy about alien slugs. Nope, definitely not going to watch that. Can't do the slugs or the bugs that turn people into zombies. Now, The Blob in 1988. Absolutely have watched that one. I love The Blob. It's based on the 1958 original. An alien blob grows bigger and bigger as it absorbs everything it encounters. So yeah, my pick would be The Thing. Absolutely. My second alternate would be The Blob. Absolutely. All right, guys. So there are or Creepy Catalog's 19 best horror movies. So how many? Let me know in comments how many of these that you agreed with, and what if your favorites weren't in any of the categories. If your favorites weren't mentioned either as their pick or their alternate, please do let me know in the comments what your picks would have been. Definitely interested to know. I love chatting, and I will get to all your comments. I love chatting with other horror fans, most definitely. So that we made it through, or I made it through our first deep dive video for the channel, for the revamped channel, the Southern Retro channel. So if you stuck around this long, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Please give it a like before you get out of here. As I said, please leave a comment, thoughts, comments, questions. Please share it to any social media platforms, to anybody who you think might find this interesting or entertaining, or both. And until next time, stay rad. Don't let anyone harsh your mellow. And if they do, tell them to eat your shorts. And I will catch you in the next one, guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.